Have you ever walked into a party and thought, "Okay, I don't belong here. I am an introvert. Where's that one find?" Your heart is racing. You're looking around the room. You're trying to find the snack table, someplace that you can hide and feel safe, and your shyness just overcomes you, and it's kind of a do or die moment of, am I gonna be here tonight and find somebody that I can connect with deeply? Or is this gonna be a waste of my time? Or do I even belong here? And if I do end up having to talk to people, am I gonna be able to say the right things? Are they gonna are they gonna feel how nervous I am, and am I gonna be awkward? That's always one of my greatest fears, even now being in a room, is are they gonna realize how awkward I actually am and how awkward I actually feel? Is it gonna show up on my face? I really wanna dive into the topic of shyness today because I know that so many people are not only shy, but they're letting it become a barrier to the things that God has called them to. The truth is that we can ask the question, is shyness a barrier or is it a superpower? And today, as we dive into this topic of shyness, I want you to go into a place of introversion and introspection and ask yourself the question, have I let this shyness be a barrier to the things that God is calling me to, the dreams and visions and purposes that I have? Or am I going to put a stake in the ground today and let this be a superpower that propels me into to the next level? We're going to tell some story. I want to talk about some amazing women in the Bible, of course, who are shy and share some stories about close people in my life. And then even talk about my own stories of overcoming shyness because the truth is, shyness is how many of us come into the world. We're born shy, we're born a certain way, but boldness is a skill and a superpower that we can develop. And you can be shy and bold, and they actually go hand in hand. So I've been in many rooms before um, where I have walked in and thought, man, do I belong here? And are my people here? And are they gonna realize? And as I really began to step out more fully, I would my number one question sometimes when I'm having conversations is just focus on the person. Just focus on what they're saying. Focus on adding value. I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to serve. And that will often be something that like, I go through my own mental mantras to overcome my awkwardness because, I truly am actually internally very awkward as a person. But I remember back in the early days, I wanna take you all the way back to early, Jamie Cross, newlywed, where I was overcoming in new powerful ways and pivotal ways that I think Nathan was a huge catalyst for that for me. And who knows if I would even be here with you right now if I had not been open to the call of, let's take you higher, Jamie. Let's take you out of your shell and into new places. And so I want to encourage you today as we dive into this conversation. First of all, if you know a shy person, maybe you're an extrovert. It seems to me at times, I'm like, man, there was a season where I thought, is the world of doing great things built for the superstar extroverts who it seems so easy for them just to be so extroverted? Or is there a place for us shy, and subtly bold ones? And I wanna encourage you that, of course, there is a place, but if you're an extrovert and you know a shy person, maybe you can be the catalyst for them to step out more fully. And Nathan was that for me in our early days. I remember before even Nathan or before Judah was born, we were in this season of Nathan would play his guitar. He's a musician. He plays the guitar and the drums and the bass, and I would just sing doing dishes, or I would sing in the car, and he would always tell me, I love your tone." And one day he came to me and I remember exactly where I was standing in our little home. We had 2 bedrooms. We had bought this little house. We were finishing the basement and I was doing dishes upstairs looking out the window, and he came and he said, "I think we should do a coffee shop gig." And I remember thinking, "Go for it. You should totally do that. It's your time." And he said, "And I want you to sing." And I thought, I did a little bit of that in high school, and the very first time I ever sang in front of a crowd was when I was, like, 7 years old at church, and I remember even calling in and telling my dad, "I can't do it." And he's like, "You're doing it." And I was like, "Can we call in? Because 'Cause I'm too sick for this." And he made me do it, and I overcame my fear at that time, but, I went a lot of years without ever being out sort of in public. And so I told Nathan, I was like, "Okay, I'll do that with you, but we're gonna have to practice." And so for me, it started with just practicing and picturing myself standing in that coffee shop, singing these songs that were so easy for me to sing at the in the shower or at the sink. And what I've found now too is those skill sets have carried me through into business, into standing on stages in front of 40,000 people and in front of 5,000 people and into large crowds. But Nathan and I practiced and practiced and practiced for 6 months to the point where it was like second nature for me to sing these songs because that was so necessary for me. Finally, when I came into an environment where I was in front of a crowd, I was so nervous, and good thing I had sort of built this muscle of overcoming my fear in the quiet places so that I could present myself open. And the night came, we had told people and friends at church, "We're gonna do this coffee shop gig if you wanna come and hang out and, like, be our little fan base," because we don't know, you know, we would probably was, like, perfectly content. I was hoping nobody would show up, but Nathan was like, "Yeah, we're gonna do this coffee shop gig." And I remember that the entire place was packed that night with friends and, our pastor's sisters showed up, and we went through our whole set, and I remember people had their headphones on and they were doing their work at their computers. And Nathan started playing his guitar, and they've got their headphones on. And I started singing, and people took their headphones off and stopped what they were doing, and they turned around to listen. And and it was such an amazing experience to overcome my fear. And then that Sunday morning, we went to church, and, our pastor's wife was like, "We heard about what you did. Would you be willing to lead some worship for us as, next Sunday as people are walking in?" And I thought, "Oh my gosh, now you want me to, like, sing in front of, like, real people here at the church." And so but thankfully, Nathan and I had spent 6 months practicing worship songs. He had a feeling, he was like, "I think we need to be prepared." And so, from that moment on, that led us into 8 years of leading worship. I got up on stage that next Sunday. My heart was racing. Um, I was hoping I could remember the words, and we sang that song, "Lead Me to the Cross." And the whole room, you could hear a pin drop when we started, and the eruption of just praise and, like, people were walking in, and it was so quiet, and just the eruption of praise and, like, celebration when we were done with that first song. It actually makes me emotional thinking back on it. And I remember it was a couple years later that we started our business, and I had to overcome in new ways. And being a salesperson, like, I'd overcome fear in different ways. Like, I was a telemarketer as a 15-year-old, and that was easy because people weren't watching me. I was in my own little booth, and it was just my voice, right? And then, as a banker, I was pulling people out of line and, like, having to have conversations, but it was still, like, one-on-one and deep. And, my skill set in, like, tapping into that boldness has been developed over time. And here's what I wanna encourage you. First of all, I wanna ask you the question, what is it that you really desire? And how long have you let shyness stop you from pursuing the thing that you feel called to pursue? Because truly, um, shyness is, I believe, a superpower because with this idea of being tempered and maybe more of a quiet person, or maybe you're more comfortable. I find myself looking, if I was going to look around the room, I would say, well, is there any familiar faces here? And now I've started to think, like, I want to go and be the friend to the person who looks like they don't know anyone. And I've gotten out of my shell, and I've learned how to become more of an extrovert in public situations. But I still find myself thinking through, like, um, I hope I hope my awkwardness doesn't shine through. Um, but truly, uh, I think the number one question is, have you let this stop you, or are you ready to overcome? And, a close friend of mine, I have a couple close friends who are very extremely introverted. And Valerie, I just think about what a superpower she is. She has gone from being incredibly introverted, and I would say that hasn't changed. Just because you start being able to overcome these things doesn't mean it changes your nature. We can still feel incredibly vulnerable and incredibly shy in situations, but let that be our superpower because I truly believe that it's those times that the Lord can shine in our weakness. It's in our weaknesses that He is strong. And in moments where I thought, what if I don't say the right thing? It's like the Lord says He's going to fill our mouth. And my friend Valerie, she is she's a coach, a life coach, she's a fitness trainer, and the way that she's working with people and changing lives and has overcome this introversion into the place where she truly if she hadn't stepped out and overcome those things, um, there would be empires now that weren't being built because of her staying quiet, and it makes me think about Esther in the Bible too, where when I think about Esther, if you look through the actual story of Queen Esther, she doesn't appear to be the life of the party. As a matter of fact, when her uncle came to her and said, "Hey, perhaps you've been brought to this place of royalty for such a time as this," she was, well, first of all, her life was on the line, right? It was like, is there no other way and is there no other person that can save my people? And the question from her her uncle was, "Well, sure, there could be a solution out there, but perhaps you were appointed for such a time as this." And you see Esther come to that place of resolve and surrender, and she says, "Okay, if I perish, I perish." And of course, we all know the story of Queen Esther. If you don't, please read the book of Esther. It's so powerful. She saves an entire nation. Her story is recorded in the history, in the book, in the Bible, for all eternity to be known as this brave queen. But I don't know that Esther was an extrovert. I don't believe it was easy for her to go before the king, but there was a spirit of boldness about her. And what I really want to communicate is that we can operate from that spirit of boldness despite our introversion, despite our self-doubt and our weaknesses. And truly, again, boldness is a skill and a muscle that we can develop. We can overcome, and we need to overcome, because I want to encourage you and challenge you right now. Who are the people that are waiting for you to for their lives to be changed because of you stepping out? And now is the time to say yes to the next level. And what does that look like? It could be, maybe you have been behind the scenes of a company, or you haven't started that business yet because you're like, "Well, I'm gonna have to go and talk to people," or, "Am I gonna have to become a marketer? Am I gonna have to be the face or get up on camera?" And I can tell you stories too. I mean, way back when I first started, in the digital marketing space, I remember reading this marketing book, and one of the things that this, author, who's really one of the top marketers in the world, he said, if you do a live video every single day for a year, you'll make $1 million. And at the time, like, Nathan and I had decided to go all in with our business and we burned all the ships at the harbor. And many of you have heard the story. And it was time to step in. And one of the things that I had to overcome was my fear of being in front of the camera. I remember the very, very first time. Um, Nathan could probably remember it too, and I set up some lights in our kitchen, and 4 people showed up to this live video, and my palms were sweating. Um, I kept gasping for, like, air, and, um, just my voice was shaky, and it was so awkward. And that's another key thing that we have to realize is that to get good at anything, we have to be really bad at something in the beginning. Most, I would say 99% of successful people had to start out being very bad at something. They had to do it and fail at it over and over and over again until they got good. So, until the point where it becomes second nature. And now I get in front of a camera or I get on a stage. The first time I ever had a speaking engagement, there were 5,000 people in the room. My dad said something to me that shifted my whole perspective because I spent 7 months practicing my script, but I practiced and I practiced and I practiced, and I came to a point where I was like, "I know the opening here from the inside out, but I wanna speak it from such a place of passion and intuition and Holy Spirit fire." I remember not totally dialing into that very first opening line, and I didn't know what it was, and I kept practicing all these different things, and they weren't coming together. Nothing was coming together, and, it was the morning of my talk, and here I am, I've got most of my speech totally like, I had to do a live what was called the 5-minute perfect webinar, which is part of my marketing, like, story where I took this 90-minute framework that this marketer had developed, and I condensed it into 5 minutes, and we did our first million in less than 6 months with that webinar. So this this influencer was like, "Will you speak at this event and teach the webinar on stage?" So I had to cite the 5-minute perfect webinar online or on stage in front of 5,000 people. But before that, I spoke from my heart, and my dad said something to me. He said, "Just give them your heart, and everything else will fall into place." And I remember and I even talked to a new friend. I was at a social club the other day. Uh, there's social clubs in Franklin. It's so crazy. Nathan's like, "What's the point of a social club?" But it was so cool. We got to meet new people from who were artists and songwriters and entrepreneurs and people from all these different sectors. And she was talking about how she wants to start speaking because she wants to impact women. And she's like, "I just don't think I can do it though. I don't think I could be a public speaker." And because I have overcome the same objections in my own mind, I was able to say, How does it feel when you give somebody a gift?" She's like I was like, "Whenever you've taken the time to prepare and you finally come to that moment where you get to give somebody this present, this gift that you have been preparing for, how does it feel when you finally give that gift?" She's like, "I feel amazing." I said, "What's inside of you is a gift to every person who," and it makes me emotional saying that. It's a gift. And how dare we think that we should withhold that gift because of our own shyness or our own inhibitions or our own blocks, right? And so I said, "You have this gift inside of you. And if you feel like you want to impact women, then you need to do it." And so my dad, it was such a shift for me of like, oh my gosh, I have to get my speech right or I have to say the right thing. No, what people are really looking for is they're looking for authenticity. They're looking for imperfection. They're looking for you just to be you. And that's one of the greatest things I think that has been so helpful for me in walking into rooms powerfully is that I'm not here for me, I'm here for them. What do I have to offer? And what do I have to give that is beneficial and can serve someone? And so I think the more we take our eyes, I believe that at the root of shyness might be a little bit of selfishness because it's about our own inhibitions, our own self-doubts. But if we get past our own inhibition and we say, what is this gift that I have to offer? Whether it's a business idea or a message on a stage or a sermon, what is this thing that's inside of you that needs to come out? That shyness has been a barrier, but now needs to become a superpower for you. Don't let the fact that you're not comfortable at this season, don't let that stop you from giving that gift. And you can overcome and become a person of boldness. And I know that's happened for me and just building that muscle and that practice, and, I'm not always like I'm excited now when I get into a room where I don't know anyone or I don't see anyone that I know or that I know that it's gonna be a new environment because my I've built the neurological pathways the muscle memory in my brain to say, "I'm not here for me. I'm not here for people to wonder about me or think about me or look at me. I'm here to give whatever I have to give to whoever needs it." And it's such a good shift. So, here's what I wanna encourage you. You have something inside of you that has maybe been held back because you think you're not XYZ. Maybe shyness. It could be other things, not even shyness. It could be traumas holding you out before and it wasn't a good experience. And maybe somebody hurt you when you finally took the time to be brave and to be bold and to use your voice and you got hurt. Maybe you got hurt by leaders or somebody you trusted. And hear me, those are opportunities for the enemy to come in and sow um, deep roots of self-doubt and keep you in a place of repetitive frustration and keep you in a place of staying small. But here's what I want you to do. I was just with a friend. Actually, we're meeting all these amazing new people here. We've been in Franklin for 3 months, and, so we've been having people over, and we've been going to these social events, or we've been going and getting invited to dinner. We had this couple over, and he's actually an actor. It was so cool to hear him tell stories about different projects, and he's been in Hallmark movies, and then he's been doing all these really amazing things, and he was telling this story. We were having this conversation, and he was showing us all these trailers of movies that he's been working on and projects he's been on. And then he started telling the story about before he ever became an actor, he had died in a drowning accident. He was a whitewater raft guide and fell off the raft and got sucked under and was dead for about 20 minutes. And he tells a story about how he came back to life, like he was resuscitated, and for a long season of time, he was so petrified of being in the water. And he came to a point finally where he said, "I need to overcome this fear." And so he went back into that same spot and actually and so because he was a professional, he knew how to, like, get out of these dangerous situations. He puts his life jacket on and he jumps off the raft and he gets sucked under the water again. And, like, he said there was this whole, like, strategy where it would've potentially killed him again, or he would've made it out on the other side, which he made it out on the other side. He had to I'm like, "Holy holy cow." But that's how voracious that's how insistent he was upon overcoming that fear of, "I'm gonna get back in the water." And something else, you as an introvert, shyness, this is I think about some of the most powerful artists and musicians and writers and people who are introverted, who are shy, and good thing when I think about, man, some of the greatest when Nathan and I went to Europe one year and we saw all this amazing art and you learn about the stories of these artists. And back then, I don't know, would they have been comparing themselves to the entrepreneurs? Were they asking themselves if what they really did mattered? Now we look back and we think, "Man, what if these amazing creators hadn't created? We would not have the amazing art and the music and the stories and the books that so many of these creative people have created." And so I want to encourage you, don't let shyness and introversion be a barrier in your life. Let it wield it as a superpower and tap into that. Also, gosh, coming back to my friend Valerie, she is 100% the most empathetic person I've ever met. A friend of mine, Mandy, she's another coach, and she can walk into a room and feel the room, and she's gotta be careful actually because if she spends too much time in rooms that are toxic and, like, it will seep into her and she feels it so heavily that it can affect her, and she's had to develop those superpowers and those muscles of overcoming. And so but yet she is stepping out, she's starting her own business, and she's been coaching for so many years, and, um There's so much power in what you possess as an introvert, as a shy person, to tap into that empathy, to tap into that creativity. We need the artists, we need the creatives. And you can be a powerful entrepreneur if you have a business idea. You can be an empathetic, creative entrepreneur who develops something that the world has never seen before, something innovative. I think some of the greatest introverted people are also some of the greatest innovators. So I really want to circle back around here for one more minute because I think it bears repeating. Introversion is a superpower. The data actually shows that between 40 to 60% of people are introverts. So then that bears the question, does that mean that 40 to 60% of the population can't have powerful ideas and can't contribute powerful things to the world, can't create powerful things and make powerful changes and create powerful change? Does that mean that 40 to 60% of the population can't amplify their voice and use their voice to say and do and empower others to do powerful things? Of course not. So today I want to remind you that shyness truly is a superpower. And if you've let it hold you back in any way, today is the day to put a stake in the ground and to say, no more. I'm not going to let this hold me back. I'm going to let this be something that propels me into the next chapter of greatness. So I can't wait to see how you change the world. And just remember, I am forever in your corner.
Thanks for listening to today's show. Hit subscribe or follow, and be sure to share this episode with a friend.